Welcome back to another episode of the One Tree Hill Rewatch here on the Filmaholic channel. Today we're going to be talking about two episodes in Season 6 of One Tree Hill, and that is 6:15 and 6:16. Okay, so to start things off, we got 6:15, which is titled We Change, We Wait. Originally aired January 19th, 2009, was directed by Les Butler, and written by John A. Norris. Now, I don't have a lot to talk about in this episode, honestly. It's not a bad episode, but it's one of the other ones where there's some filler stuff going on. There's also some bigger stuff going on that I do like, but it's okay. It's just one of the episodes that get you to the next one. Honestly, in my opinion, kind of goes with the title. We wait. So the main thing about this episode is Nathan playing basketball. Obviously, he's having a hard time on the Charleston Chiefs because of Devon, the player that is also playing his spot on the team and is always getting the play time. So Dan comes back in this episode. We haven't seen Dan, the regular timeline outside the 40s episode, since episode 9. So he's been gone a little bit, or like not gone from Tree Hill, but just gone from us seeing him. Back in this episode, he gets his beeper back, which is an incredible amount of time to go without him getting a new beeper. I mean, this is months. Like, this episode would be based in, like, I guess, January or February, when he got hit by that car was in the summer. So, like, I can't believe they went this long without giving him a new one. That doesn't really make much sense. But anyways, he gets his new beeper in this episode, and that's another thing with the titles. We wait. So he tells Nathan that in this episode. It's like, all we can do now is wait, And if we're given the opportunity, like if the beeper goes off, if Nathan gets to play the ball, like what will we make of it? Will you be ready? And he gives Nathan some good advice, and he also talks to Jamie, who's really concerned about Nathan getting the play time, and gives Jamie some insight on Nathan and him playing ball, which Jamie ends up contacting the coach after that, and the coach ends up putting Nathan in at the end of the game, and Nathan does get that one assist, which wins them the game. And Dan's there to watch that. He's there to watch Nathan's basketball game, and that's an incredible moment because honestly, I was thinking about when I watched that scene that's the only time, at least that we know of, that Dan was able to see Nathan play professionally outside of high school. Obviously he didn't see him play any in college, and then this is the first and only game that he was able to go to, because eventually when we get into season 7 and whatnot, like there's no mention, and I don't think that Dan ever saw him play anything else, which that's sad. But I do like the scene, and you can tell in that moment where Dan tells Nathan that he is proud of him. An emotional response comes to Nathan in that scene, that his father's proud of him, and he's happy about that, but he doesn't fully get to show it. And the other big thing about this episode is that Lucas and Julian have to pick a director to direct Unkindness of Ravens. And they're having a difficult decision, which is weird, because Paul, which is obviously Paul Norris, Julian's father, keeps sending them directors. He's sent them, I think, 5 or 6 directors in this episode. In this episode, we only get to see 2 of these directors, right? The one that wants to have be gritty and handheld and Lucas in a gang, and then also James Vanderbeek's character, Adam Reese. So we see both of them, but there's a bunch of other ones that we didn't see. One made a movie about incest with sock puppets or something. We haven't seen these other guys. But from what we have seen, and even that one we heard about, I don't know why you would send these guys to audition to direct this film. To try, talk, like they don't have anything in their filmography, it seems, or the mindset that you would have to make this movie. You would want an indie director, drama, keeping it something like I don't know. It just seems like Paul's just sending them random directors, and maybe that's a studio level thing, but I don't know. Which, James Vanderbeek comes back in this episode. We haven't seen him since the mid-season finale. He comes back, tries to talk to Lucas and Julian about getting the job, and they're like, no, we're definitely not giving it to you. And then he goes and talks to Paul and gets the job by the end of the episode. But that's really 6:15, the highlights of that one. And then we go to 616, which is called Screenwriters Blues, which aired February 2nd, 2009. Was directed by Bethany Joy Lenz. This is the first episode that she directs in the series, and she directs a total of 3 episodes throughout the rest of the series. Season 6 is definitely a season that all of the cast members, not all of the cast members, but a lot of the younger cast members start directing. Chad directs an episode, Bethany directs an episode, James Lafferty directs an episode, and I believe, I'm not sure if Sophia directs an episode this season or if it's actually season 7 it looks like it's season 7 that she directs her first episode. But it's definitely the kickoff. I think Chad's the first here with, he was the first with 614, and then we move on to Bethany directing the episode 616. And I think she did a solid job here. The episode was also written by Mike Hero and David Strauss, which are 2 of my favorite writers on the show. And the big part of this episode is in casting the film. So they're casting the film, going through all the people that are going to be playing them. That's a big part of the film, a big part of the episode. The casting, I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I liked seeing it, but also it doesn't really make too much sense to me because I don't know what level of the film they're making here. It must be very, very indie for them to just, like, I don't know, they went around Tree Hill and put up casting signs and for all of the main roles, because from what I've gathered, usually when a film like this made, even if it was going to film in Wilmington, which is, the real Tree Hill, even if the film was going to film there, you would cast in Wilmington for the extras, and even could be larger roles in the film or the show. But for leading roles, so like One Tree Hill itself, like, I know some of the cast members that are on the show definitely came, like Junk and Fergie were probably from that area. I know Lee Norris was from North Carolina. Like, several people are from North Carolina, but like Lucas, Nathan, all of those, Peyton, that were Brooke, all of those that would be cast in this film would have most likely been cast in California, would have been in LA. All of that casting would have happened there, not in Tree Hill, and then they would have came to Tree Hill to film. So I know for the sake of the show, and it is more fun to put it in Tree Hill, but it just didn't really make much sense to me, especially for these leading roles. And you had so many people auditioning for, like, look when Peyton came in, and looked at all the people around her that were auditioning for the role of Peyton. That made no sense of why just so many people from around town were coming to audition for this film. You didn't go with any, like, known actors for anybody. That's a little bit weird to me. So I wasn't a huge fan of that. But the other aspects I did like, with, Lucas having to make decisions about the film, just them making the movie inside of the show, I liked, and I like that when they go to the end of the series, when they do that a little bit too. And even Julian's movie, when he makes it in 7, just a little bit of movie making inside of the show, I think that's interesting. Obviously, there's the Brooke situation in this episode too, with what's written in the script, which is technically supposed to be before people get to know her, but it's all about, like, Brooke's character being just sex. Like, that's all that is there for that character. Which is stupid. I didn't like that. And honestly, like, even if you were just trying to talk about how she was in the high school years, maybe she was like more like that before season 1. She really didn't have that sex with that many people in the first 4 seasons. Not that it would have mattered anyways, but I'm just saying it's, like, not that much. So they kind of, I don't know. We already know they have continuity issues on this show, so whatever. Devon's fired in this episode as well, so Nathan gets to step up to that role where Devon was, and he's pretty upset when he leaves, which I don't feel any empathy for him as he's fired, because, I mean, he's a douche. That's why he was fired. The jerk. Can't play as a team. That's what's going to happen. It's not high school anymore. This is a job that you have, and you got to do what you're told, and you don't do it, you're fired. That, and, he also tore up, like, he comes in with the family and stuff at the end. You trying to pull at the heartstrings, giving some sort of emotion. The dude tore up Nathan's photos. So why? I don't care. Now, they do touch upon him a little bit in a future episode down the line when Nathan gets the opportunity to play overseas, and we'll touch upon him more then. There's also the stuff with Haley and the new principal who comes in this episode, who is an awful character, and I actually have a problem with how she's written. Anyways, I think it's poorly, because it's so one-sided, where it's like it's the sort of situation where you had Principal Turner in season 4, like talking about how he had the kids, students, and the parents who were upset about certain things to worry about, and the principal does that here, because Haley wants to publish Sam's essay, and the principal has a problem with it because of what's in the essay. Now, we don't know what exactly is in the essay, especially I don't know, just we don't know what's in it. But it's someone's actual life, and Haley definitely should have stood up for what she believed in, and she does, and I'm glad about that. And Haley ends up getting suspended in the episode for publishing that essay, but I just feel like that principal character is so one-sided and just a bland character, just annoying, and that little storyline with her getting suspended and then fired in a future episode, that continues for 4 episodes, and just not one of my favorites of the seasons. But obviously they had to do that to take us into Haley's storyline in the next season, which is more music related. And that's her thing for a little bit moving forward, is her being more into the music thing and that being her career focus. And then of course in next season, this is the last season we really get to see the high school. We get a couple scenes in season 7 with the high school, and I don't think any in 8. And then at the end of season 9, we get a little bit more, of course, because I was actually in that scene with them filming the show at the end of season 9. But we'll get to that. And then the last thing about this episode I want to talk about with 616 is the stuff with Dan and Jamie and Lauren. Lauren's character is actually the character Lauren is introduced in this episode. Excuse me. As she ends up coming back and forth until the final season. I think she's through the final season that she has episodes. I know she's in 7 and 9. I can't remember if she's in 8 or not. I believe she is. I'm not a fan of this character either. Bland. It's one of those characters in the later seasons that I could care less about. But she comes over to Dan's beach house for a date with Jamie. Dan does not know how old she is when she's coming over and that she's his teacher. She comes over, and Dan and her start flirting, upsets Jamie, and Jamie storms out and says he's in prison. And then him and Dan have a conversation, and he thinks Dan's making fun of him, and Dan apologizes, and ends up sending Jamie back inside to finish off the afternoon, and then talks with Jamie at the end of the episode about, just apologizing again and saying that, he's his best friend. He would never do anything to hurt him. And I like this for the most part because it built more on their relationship, and I just think made it stronger, honestly, even though they had like a little fight. This is the first time we've seen like a little fight between Dan and Jamie, and I enjoyed the episode and their moments together. Does foreshadow something in there, and they have a conversation where Jamie said, I guess I'll look for people my own age, and Dan said, or younger. Now this does foreshadow season 7 and Dan's relationship in that season. Alright guys, that's episode 615 and 16. The next episode I'll be talking about 617. See you guys next time.